The original purpose of the idea of separation of powers is to prevent an abuse of political power or predominance of a single governmental entity. This end is realized only by dividing political power amongst distinct bodies of individuals who act as countervailing forces against one another. Meanwhile, Montesquieu, the French political philosopher who founded this principle, acted on the context of the international system as then practiced. The 18th century was a moment in history when absolute powers of the Pope, emperors, and monarchies had been rattled by the Renaissance freethinkers. As absolute power was reposed in these single individuals, Montesquieu thought that the only way to check abuse of power was to rid the monarchs of some of their powers and give them to another entity. However, Montesquieu had not the premonition that a separation of powers does not mean the absence of power abuse. If the philosopher had looked into the future, he would have seen Nigeria as a perfect example of a country where a separation of powers only exists in principle, but not in practice. When a snail breaks loose from its shell, it would be a blunder to refer to the shell as a snail, because several other animals have shells. In our country, Nigeria, some people argue and complain that the president of Nigeria wields so much power, and that's bad. Some other persons would support the president and say, yes, that's proper because we are practicing the presidential system of government. But the indisputable truth is that the president of Nigeria wields so much power. Yes, he wields so much power, not because of the presidential system that we practice, but because the principle of separation of powers have become nothing but an empty shell. To put it simply, separation of powers and its concomitant checks and balances are practically non-existent in Nigeria. By virtue of the 1999 Constitution as amended, the president has no room in which to become so powerful, so authoritative as to impose his will on the people. As regards the judiciary, the Constitution empowers the president to appoint the Chief Justice of Nigeria. We all know that. But Chapter 7, Section 292 of the Constitution restricts the president from removing the Chief Justice at will without securing at least a two-thirds support of the Senate. This provision affords the judiciary the absolute courage to dispense justice without fear or favor. In the case of the legislature, the Constitution empowers the president to decline from giving his assent to legislative bills, what we call the veto power. But Section 58, subsection 5 gives the National Assembly the authority to override the presidential veto and pass the bills into law, even without the consent of the president. Therefore, the conditions that could give too much power to the president is totally vitiated by the Constitution. Notwithstanding the constitutional framework, the current Nigerian president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, can be rightly said to be too powerful. The president has completed the process of state capture to be in a secure footing for the 2027 presidential election. In the first place, the presiding officers of the three arms of government had been stained with cases of fraud and corruption long before they assumed offices. Starting with the executive, President Tinubu was said to be involved in drug dealing and money laundering in Chicago, in which case he had to forfeit about $460,000 to the United States authorities in 1993. In the case of the legislature, in 2016, Senate President Godswill Akpabio's property was seized by the EFCC as a result of the corruption while in office as governor of Akwa Ibom State. As regards the judiciary, the recent U.S. refusal to grant Justice Kudirat Kekereekun visa was a result of judicial corruption, notably her involvement in the panel that installed Helpus Adema, the governor of Imo State, into power in 2020. Most recently, the president offered Abdullahi Ganduje, chairman of the All Progressive Congress, an ambassadorial post. Despite Ganduje's old age and corruption charges, the president desired to take such a prestigious and important position to give to him. An ambassador is more or less like a president of one country living in another country by virtue of representation. This is why ambassadors are also referred to as Your Excellency. They bear the title of Your Excellency. Now, in the second strategy of state capture, the president, in a Machiavellian style, imposed himself into power. Prior to the 2023 elections, President Tinubu had worn a posture of a godfather to former President Buhari. President Tinubu falsely thought that Nigeria was like the political system of godfatherism practiced in his tribal group. In the Yoruba socio-political tradition, an individual cannot become king or Oba without the backing of a group of kingmakers known as the Oyomesi or Afobaje. President Tinubu adopted this practice and played a crucial role in installing former President Buhari into power in 2015, mainly through funds.
Every nation have a period of their own challenges. When America was challenged, they turned to one great man, their ex-military general, as General Eisenhower. Correct? When French was challenged, they turned to their general, Charles de Gaulle. Correct? When Britain was challenged, they turned to their great general, Winston Churchill. Correct? Today, Nigeria is challenged, economically challenged, physically challenged, security challenged. Who do we turn to? General Muhammad Buhari is the right man for the job. If you talk of military experience, he has it abundantly. If you talk of courage, he has it abundantly. If you talk of simplicity, he has it abundantly. If you talk of great determination, a combination of vision and ability to perform, honesty and integrity, he has it abundantly. Abundantly. Abundant. Abundant. I love. I'm coming back up. I love when the incapable government of Nigeria, Poverty Development Party, they have nothing again to say. They now ask the integrity, the temerity, to question the qualification of General Buhari and look for a certificate. Shame on them.
The Yoruba tradition does not allow kingmakers to become king themselves. But in President Tinubu's case, this tradition was upturned. In 2022, President Tinubu, in several occasions, made authoritative statements that it was his turn to become president.
about the cap of kingmaker. I've never seen the cap of a kingmaker before. Oh, no, that is the truth. And I've never seen where it is written in the rule book anywhere in any country that a kingmaker cannot be a king unless you commit murder. So, whatever is your attribute, is your own opinion. Me, I want to pursue my ambition without the title of a kingmaker. You can write your literature and your story based upon your own perception. Thank you very much.
This election had yet to be held, but the president was already affirming his victory. In the presidential primaries of the APC, the current Senate President Akpabio was the first to step down for the president. This President Tinubu, as if he knew that Tinubu would later endorse him for Senate presidency. President Tinubu was a kingmaker who desired to be king, and now he is a king. There is no real power, again, behind the throne. The real power now is on the throne, and that is the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Since the inauguration of this government, the relationship between the executive and the legislature has been neither one of competition nor cooperation. Rather, this relationship has been characterized by accommodation. Yes, there is a difference between accommodation and cooperation. By cooperation, two parties work together, positively criticize each other's work, and then reconcile their disagreements. This reconciliation will lead to understanding, progress, and the development of both parties. On the other hand, accommodation simply means that one party willingly or by cajolement accepts hook, line, and sinker whatever the other party is offering, whatever the other party is saying. In the end, one party's will dominates, leading to retrogression and, cramping of the development. President Tinubu's will has been dominating the Nigerian polity, while the legislature and the executive are nothing but pawns in the political game. That's why Senator Alain Dume was removed as chief whip when he criticized President Tinubu. That's why the National Assembly turned a blind eye as the president purchases luxurious cars, jets, yachts, builds a mansion for the vice president. Now, the president's state capture has been perfected with the ridiculous swearing-in of Justice Ekun, who is supposed to be acting Chief Justice of Nigeria. Donald Duke, former governor of Cross River State, spoke about this shameful act of the president.
Practically, she's acting Chief Justice. You don't swear someone who is acting.
Okay.
It's when it becomes substantial that you swear her in. Now, after she's been confirmed, is she going to be re-sworn again?
Yeah.
We have a problem. Your question here, the point here is, if for any reason the Senate finds her not fit and proper to be Chief Justice of the Federation, even on account of her not being able to obtain a visa to the United States, or whatever decides, then she ceases, and from there onwards, she proceeds into retirement. And the most senior, the person who came into the court immediately after her, would assume an acting position. Now, the point is here that you don't swear in someone who is acting because she's not been confirmed. You have to get a confirmation before you, because after the confirmation...
The judiciary is the final hope of the common man. But with the swearing-in of Justice Ekun, President Tinubu has secured for himself the protection against whatever backlash that may arise from his rigging in the 2027 general elections. I rest my case.